Hello and welcome to PPC Live 19 online. I'm going to wait again for maybe a few of us, of the members, to join us. Oh, well, we've got an audience member, so let's kick it off. Hello and welcome to PPC Live 19 online. We are delighted to have you join us. The PPC Live 19 was such a great event. It was probably our most successful one yet. I'm so sorry that you missed it, but hey, this is why we have the online events. You are very much a key part of our audience, and I am so delighted that you're here with us to listen to the great talks that were done by Dave Alexander, Kat Sale, and Nils Rooijmans. You are in for another treat for several talks that are going to happen. So yeah, but just a little bit about PPC Live and why we keep doing this. I've been going on for where I've been doing this for like 3 years now, bringing the events to a very fantastic, and vibrant audience of people who just want to learn and share. It's something that I just felt the PPC industry needed. That was not, a way for agencies to try to, get get new clients in, but really for the audience to actually enjoy really like thoughtful case studies and well thought out case studies that have been done of how paid search is evolving in 2026. And that's what's been going on for the past 3 years. And the audience and the participation and the reception has been so great. I'm going to show you a little bit now as to what has been going on behind the scenes. We've grown our LinkedIn following, grown our WhatsApp following even, and I'll even make that a bit larger for those who want to join our WhatsApp. So you can go on that QR code, and if you go into that QR code, you'll be able to get that. You're able to get connected to our WhatsApp community, where there's a very vibrant community of Q&A that allows you to just ask any questions that you have. We've got a fantastic blog as well, where community members have contributed to. We'd love you to check that out, and a newsletter, and so on so forth. You can see all the different platforms we're on here. So I'll give you a minute in case you want to join the WhatsApp group, and so that you can check us out there. It's over 1,000 members now. We might actually have to think of using a different platform, or maybe call out the people who are not really engaging in as much as anymore. But anyway, without further ado, first of all, actually, before we go into the talks, we have to give a big thanks and shout out to my sponsors, Shopping IQ and Opteo. Shopping IQ are our #1 shopping feed and ad platform for Google Shopping and Meta ads across exclusive, incremental, and advanced targeting available nowhere else. So the brands stand out and improve performance, and agencies can demonstrate innovative wins with new business, as well as Opteo, very long-standing partners of PPC Live in that they've come to pretty much all the events. The founder, Guillaume, he was at the very first PPC Live, and he's just been sending his team currently to very, very regularly to the event. So we're really grateful to have them on as a sponsor. And Opteo have been around for about 10 years, originally as a Google Ads optimization tool, but they just launched an early access to a big new version of the platform, which now means there are a multiple channel, optimization tool with powerful analysis tool and thoughtfully integrated AI. So with that out of the way, let's not wait any much longer so that you can get on board with our fantastic talks coming up. We're going to be starting off with Kat Sale, who's going to be talking about the importance of enjoying your job, and the key what are the key aspects of ensuring that you are still enjoying the work of paid search. So let's pass that on.
Which is good. You can come in. If you're at the back, just come in. There's more seats. There are a few more seats, so definitely come in. It's fine. It's a relaxed session, maybe. So I've been tasked with talking about how to find joy in PPC, or your job in general, to be honest. And it's something that I think is quite important, because you've only got one life, right? So you want to enjoy all that time you spend at work. So hopefully you'll find some of this interesting. You might find some things to take away. If you don't find anything interesting, don't let me know. It's fine. Just don't tell me that bit. So who am I? Well, this is me, aged 4. Sometimes I like to share something personal at the beginning. And the thing to share about this photo, it's a little bit embarrassing. My dad still likes to bring it out at family events. I wanted to be in ballet, and the teacher, who was called Mrs. Tipper Bullen, couldn't fucking make that name up, right? Mrs. Tipper Bullen would say to me, Kat, you're too heavy-footed, you're not going to be a ballet dancer, you can't do it. So I quit. Not very good management. Okay, we're going to talk about bad managements later. And this is me now with my team. So I set up House Performance in 2021 with my friend, colleague, Emma, and that's kind of led me to now. So, why do we work? Does anyone want to share a nugget about why we work? Money. Obviously money. So we work for money, but we don't just work for money, do we? Because probably everyone in this room has got enough money to pay their bills, I hope. Maybe with a bit spare. What else motivates you to come to work? Yes? Creativity. Amazing. Good one. Anyone else want to share anything? Numbers. We like numbers, yeah? Definitely. I mean, most people in this room probably love numbers, right? Yes? Solving problems for businesses. Yes, also a great one. A great one. Anyone over this side? Community. Did you say clients? Pleasing clients. Maybe. So there's some good reasons there. So it's not just about money, although obviously money is important. So I've boiled it down to these 4 things really, which we've touched on already really. So obviously money, got bills to pay, got things to buy for my kids. Purpose is really important, definitely. And you're not really going to thrive in your role without purpose. I think most people would agree. Status. So for some people, and for me, for quite a lot of my 20s, the job title, the agency I worked at, the status of that really mattered. I don't actually feel like that anymore, but I think that does matter to a lot of people sometimes. And the last one is community. We definitely learned in COVID that community is important to people. You've all come here because you want to be part of something, right? So you can definitely thrive at work through having a community. So, me specifically, I'll just tell you a little bit about my journey and what's kept me enjoying and excited to work in PPC for the last 16 years. So the first one is, I would class myself as a geeky magpie. I love new shiny things, and there's a lot of new shiny things at the moment. But even back in this photo, if you can see it of me, is in 2014. I was just an account manager and I got invited to Google Dublin to try on Google Glass. Does anyone remember what that is? Yeah. They never really took off. They were a bit weird. You put them on, you could then use Google through your glasses. Yeah, it was weird. But I was excited about it and excited to learn about it. I remember when YouTube came out and released skippable advertising, and I was like, fucking hell, this is massive, how exciting. And that gave me a lot of joy, you know? So much joy to have these new things. And ChatGPT now becoming a platform that we can advertise on. I know there's a lot of hate for it, but I'm really excited for something new to test and learn from. Hopefully you are too, we'll find out later. So the next one is, I'm a social butterfly. Someone in the room is not happy because they are on this slide. I love doing things with work, with colleagues, with clients. The picture in the middle of someone having a really good time in the mud is actually Katie, who's a client of mine. Put your hand up, Katie, just so everyone knows. She was amazing on this mud run we did. And I think that photo sums up how much fun you can have. Yes, you're not at work, but you are with people you work with. And stuff like this, like the thing on the left is the picture of us with the cheese. We got to go to Amsterdam for a client meeting. This is like 11 years ago or something. And while we were there, we thought, let's go to a cheese museum. And that was really good. It was really fun. Anyway, why the hell am I talking about this? The last reason that I think I've stayed in this industry so long is I do fucking love success. And a lot of people I can see in this room do. I love numbers. I love making performance really, really strong for a client. And I love shouting about it and getting recognition. I'm not embarrassed to say that. I love winning awards. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's what pushes my buttons. It might not be the same for you, but in a bit of time, we're going to find out what pushes your buttons, hopefully, at work. So, nearly went off course, different track then. What is your key to finding joy? Is it purpose? Is it growth? Is it recognition? Now, you've probably all got different experiences with all these things that may help or hinder your ability to find joy in whatever you're doing at the moment and in the past. Let's talk about a couple more examples of mine, and then I've got a quiz to go through with you guys. And some of you have got notepads, which is great. If you haven't, either find one or you can use your phone. So I want to talk about the traps that can get in the way of you finding joy at work. And a lot of you will have had these, I think, or similar, but I think they're really good examples, hopefully, that paint the picture. So the first trap is, I'm just too busy. How many times has an opportunity come your way and instead of being excited, you've gone, fuck, I'm just too busy for this. I don't want to do it. I can't. This was me about 10 years ago when the opportunity to run this account came up. My boss said, we've just won Toys R Us. Do you want to lead their PPC? And I went, I'm too busy. I've got a full portfolio. I can't do it. I'm too stressed. And he was like, are you mental? Like, what are you talking about? It's Toys R Us. Hopefully you'll remember Toys R Us and know how exciting this is. I was excited in the end. So he talked me around and he was like, look, what can we take off your plate to make it work? And so I changed my mind, took it on and ran it. And I learned some amazing things from working on this. If I hadn't taken it, I wouldn't have learned those things. And one of the core things I learned was large businesses that have a lot of stores and online sales can struggle to communicate between them. And I'd never actually experienced that with a client, but that is so fundamental. So Toys R Us had a problem basically where if you ordered online, but it was a collect in store purchase, you would pay for that purchase in store. So say you bought a bike for your kid, you went and bought it in store, you'd then pay at the till when you took that bike out, which is great. None of those sales were attributed to online. So anything driven by PPC that drove a click and collect was of zero value to PPC. And therefore the marketing team at Toys R Us for digital didn't want any click and collect sales. That was a fucking nightmare to manage within PPC because more than 50% were click and collect. So I had to actually try and optimize away from those sales, which is really weird and a funny situation, but it's a good thing to learn. So I'm really glad I took it on. The next one is the boss. If your boss is a complete dick, it's really hard to find joy, right? And probably everyone in here, or most people at some point, has had I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, don't worry, but you probably at some point had a manager that's made it really hard to enjoy your job. It's hard to move past this if you can't work with them. So sometimes, and I've had this, it's about recognising when you're not going to thrive under someone and finding a way to move away from them, whether that's to another job or another team within that agency or client business, whatever it might be. But super important to notice when that's getting too much and move away. I had a boss that really, really damaged my confidence. She said to me, I moved into her team from another team, and I was doing okay in the role, but I don't think I wasn't what she expected. And she said to me on 2 separate occasions, you actually are paid more than I thought you would be. And I was like, okay, so you think I'm overpaid? Great, so this is going to go well here. And obviously, well, it didn't. I left in the end. And then the last point is your own mindset. So I spent quite a lot of time in my 20s obsessing about the next job title, what my peers were doing, how quickly can I get to senior, how quickly can I get to director, oh, that person's got to director 1 month before me, that must mean I'm a bit shit. And that was I just wasted time. And I think that really affected my joy and actually was pointless because I'm on my own journey. So my other bit of advice is run your own race. Okay, and this video hopefully will play with sound, we'll see, summarises it. Should we find out? Not very loud, it's not loud enough.
Now I'm exactly
I don't know how to work this.
And I'm still just thinking
You can read it.
house. Only now they're the ones I made here. I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
So I think that's a really nice video from the office because we're all rushing often, right? And I'm guilty of this as well. But sometimes the good times are actually right now. And it's really good to just take a minute to appreciate that. And if they're not the good times right now, fine, move on to the next thing. But then when they are, definitely appreciate that. So these are my takeaways. And the talk is not over, don't worry, because there is a quiz, as I said. Calm down. Always embrace change, have an open mindset, and get out of your head. That third one's really hard. We all do it. I was in my head loads today thinking I'm going to be shit today, my talk's going to be awful. Just try and get out of your own head or work with people that can help you get out of your own head. That can also really help. So, We're going to do a quiz now, and you're all going to get involved. Maybe you've got a notepad, maybe you've got a phone. If you've got a phone, do the quiz, please. Don't get distracted on LinkedIn like I would. Hopefully you'll find this useful. And I want you to really, really be as honest with yourself as you can with this. So this is a quiz to see, it's only 11 questions, don't worry, to see how possible it is for you to find enjoyment where you are now, okay? And some of it's related to PPC, but loads of it's just the job that you're in, right? I really want you to be honest. You don't have to share your answers. Obviously you can if you want. I'm always up for a chat. And don't overthink it. We're going to go through it quite quickly, so just pick the number that comes to mind first. So for every statement I'm going to put on the screen, just rank how you feel about them. Generally, with number 1 being the most negative, 2 being in the middle, and 3 being the most positive or excited. Very simple. Everyone ready? I can tell you're all so excited. Yeah. Okay, good. Something. Good. Right. Do I like my colleagues? Okay. Don't have to share. Just be honest with yourself. I'll move on. Do I have freedom to test new things at work? Okay. How excited was I by the prospect of advertising on ChatGPT? I know this will be mixed, but I was more than a 3. I was a fucking 9. Can I be honest with my boss? My team, please put 3. Such an important question, though. Am I a part of something that matters? Also very important. How excited was I when PMAX announced brand exclusions? It's me trying to keep it PPC relevant, you know? How often do I deliver something I'm proud of? How often do I feel the Sunday scaries? And if you don't know what that means, it means on a Sunday night you basically are worrying and dreading the following day and week at work. If you're getting that every week, you've got to have a conversation. Everyone gets it sometimes though. Have my team got my back? If something's on fire, is there someone I can ring that will help me and I can trust that they will help me, you know? Is there something exciting I can work on this year, sorry? And I think we're at the last one. Can I be myself at work, genuinely? Okay, add up your scores. Don't need to share. Just looking for the total number. Whoever said they like numbers at the start, this is good. Everyone there? Ish? Great. So, have a little look. If you scored under 16, it's really hard for you to find joy wherever you're at. That doesn't mean the job's wrong or the company's wrong. It could be your mindset, but you need to make a change, in my opinion, okay? If you got 17 to 24, you're in a pretty good place, but you can probably change some things. And maybe there's some questions that got you thinking, oh, I could tweak something there, or I don't know, if I can hate my colleagues, but I like the job, so you could work on that. And if you're 20, was anyone 25 plus? Yeah. Amazing. So loads of you are in a great place, hopefully. And that's really good. It's not a competition, don't worry. Because we want everyone to be a 20, no one's going to be 25 all the time, but you know, we do want people to be happy at work, right? Okay. So if anyone is scoring quite low and is feeling a bit shit about that, I've got one last thing to share. How am I doing for time? Doing all right for time? Plenty of time. Okay. So wherever you're at, you have got the power to improve on it and make it better, just like a PPC campaign, right? So I want to talk about being an explorer bee. Has anyone heard of this phrase? Yeah? Okay, good. It's one of my absolute faves. So, is it going to move? Yeah. My best friend, Rory Sutherland. He's obviously not my best friend. I met him once at a conference and got really excited and got a selfie with him. He talks often. So does everyone know who Rory Sutherland is? Yeah? Fabulous. You might have seen this already. He talks about explorer bees and how bees have survived for billions of years and thrived and will probably outlive us, okay? And the reason they do that is because 80% of bees in the hive will just do the same fucking thing every day. Whatever the queen's told them to do, they do the same job day in, day out, and they do it really well, and they don't have breaks, and they deliver. And the hive continues, the pollen is connected, the honey is made, everyone is satisfied. But 20% of bees are explorer bees, and they're the exciting ones, okay? So they get to go off and explore and just look for potential threats and new sources of pollen. And they are critical to the growth and survival of the hive. Now, sometimes they go off and explore and they come back with fuck all, right? They just went out for the day and they got nothing. And that's okay, because sometimes they go out and they might see a bear is coming. Shit, the hive's in threat. Probably not, but they might see that. Or they might find a new source of pollen, which is really, really important because they need to keep finding sources of pollen to thrive and survive, right? Without them, bees would die out. We'd all be fucked, right? Hopefully you all know that. Why am I talking about this? Well, you've all got the power to use some of your time to explore. And exploring is where you can find a lot of joy and happiness, right? In whatever you do, whatever you enjoy about your work. So I really want you to think about making time for exploring. I'm going to talk about one case study. I guess this is a plug of how good we are, if you could like to call it that. This is about amazing things that happen when you explore. Now, this isn't my work. This is actually Sam's work, who's sat at the front right here. Give him a wave, Sam. He's going to be embarrassed. That's okay. So we work with Universal Music on a subscription business they have. And it's in the US, UK, and we've done a little bit of work in Australia. And after a few months of being live, it's a brand new product, this, that we launched with them 2 years ago. After a few months of being live, Sam went in and did some exploring work, if you like, and looked at performance by state in America. Big old country, right? And he found that certain states performed a lot better than others. And the budget's really tight, so why don't we cut all the other states and just go for the ones that work really well? He did that. We got this amazing case study. Client was very happy. I then felt great as well. So it's win-win all round. If Sam hadn't been curious and explored, that just wouldn't have happened. And we would have just been another mediocre agency doing mediocre work for a brand. So that's the end. It was way quicker than I expected, but that's good, hopefully. If it was useful and you liked it, let me know. I fucking love praise. If you didn't like it, don't tell me. And if you want a copy of that quiz for any reason, if you know someone that's struggling at work and you think it might help them, just drop me a note on LinkedIn, I'll send you it. And if you make a big change off of anything I've said today, let me know. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kat, for teaching us the lesson of ways that we can ensure that our career does not stagnate, and how we can be explorer bees where things might not be happening on a daily basis, but every once in a while you get that great opportunity to do something extraordinary for your client, and it makes everyone happy, and it just means you're just a happier person in your workplace, which is so important. So our next talk is going to be coming from Dave Alexander, who you might remember me saying he's going to join us live for the Q&A after all the talks. And yeah, Dave is going to be talking about, lost leads and how it's actually important to analyze them, because you want to know why you lost those leads and what ways that you can improve your business and improve your funneling and improve your landing page to ensure that those leads become quality leads and continue to add to your funnel and to your growth. So yeah, let's hear from Dave.
How are you all doing? Hey, see, right now you need to calm down now. We're going to talk about B2B lead gen. If you get bored, I'm sorry. Okay, all the ecoms in here are like, oh God, not lead gen again. We're going to talk about really long customer journeys and all things. Anyway, lead gen businesses can be quite old school. I think we've all kind of experienced that at some point or another, or quite archaic in their systems. But from a PPC side of things, it means we don't have to be, okay? Just because their system is, not necessarily as up to date as we like it to be, doesn't mean that your bid strategies need to be as well. There's a lot of accounts that I've come across recently, particularly through new business audits and things like that. People are still using manual bidding. And I'm not talking like, we'll put brand on that and it'll protect it and we won't overspend. I'm talking the whole account on manual, and it's scary. So where we need to be is kind of towards the right-hand side, I think, as you guys look at it, which is the smart bidding side of things. So that's how we mature the account, that's how we mature our approach to everything, and that's kind of what we need to do with the bid strategies. Now, Google recommends that we have 30 conversions in 30 days for smart bidding to optimize efficiently. I'm sure if we've all spoken to our Google account managers, you can probably get away with 15. Ideally 30, 50 is kind of where we start to really break through and really start to get some good performance. Now, again, Ecom, 50 conversions in a month, no problem, we can do that through sales. Lead gen, it's a very, very different picture, okay? It's very, very much harder. There's not as many people in the market for your product, or there's a very busy market, there's a lot of competition. It can be hard to get that volume of data into your account. So we're going to go hopefully through here, kind of how we increase that volume and use the data that you have got to the best. So smart bidding strategies are only as smart as the data we give them, okay? So if you just show that people are converting on site, great, it can make people convert on site all day. But what we need to show them is past that and where we get into the offline systems. So the key to that is the lead quality data. So whether that's through a direct integration through your CRM, through an API, or whether it's an offline conversion import through a Google Sheet or similar. Okay, either way, we need to try and get it into the system so it can see what's happening. So the end goal, and I'll put basketball hoop in here because I'm mad on basketball, so please talk to me later if you want to talk basketball. Sorry, that was a massive sidetrack there. So for customers is kind of where we want to be. So that's ideally where we want to be optimizing towards. So that endpoint, the person who has actually bought something from you. Now, as we go down the funnel, obviously that gets smaller and smaller. And for the purpose of this talk, I know a lot of businesses have very, very long, drawn-out sales processes with multiple touch points in the pipeline. For the purposes of what I'm going to talk to you guys about, we're going to simplify it down to these four kind of areas. So we'll have a lead, so somebody who's made contact with you. Qualified, so it's one that your business can actually service, or actually somebody who could potentially be a customer at some point. Opportunity, which is someone that you then provided a quote to, and you're just going through that negotiation stage. Then customer, money's in the bank, they're on the roll, happy days. So without lead quality data, this is how the picture looks. I've used Salesforce here as the CRM, but it could be HubSpot, it could be Dynamics, whatever you may be using, or your clients. So from left to right, we've got somebody on Google, they click on an ad, go through to the website, they convert on a contact form, that is then fed back into Google Ads. That then goes across into your CRM, and this is where it goes dark for Google Ads. So then opportunity comes through as a lead, into opportunity, into customer. Okay, that data at the minute is not coming back. With integration, you then get a bit more of the picture. Okay, so now we're understanding, okay, somebody has submitted a form, we've made contact with them, they might have been qualified, they might not. That's then fed back into the system. The bid strategy now understands, okay, this is a valuable lead, this is a not valuable lead, and hopefully it will start to optimize towards the more valuable ones. Perfect world scenario, you then got customer data coming back through with revenue. Okay, now we're getting to revenue into it. We can now start to look at target ROAS, maximize conversion value, and those sort of things to actually really push your bid strategies and really start to optimize towards those high value customers, not just a customer. So let's try and visualize this. Okay, so at the minute, if the bid strategy can't see your data, at the minute it's got 30 conversions. I counted them out. They're an absolute nightmare to line up into that nice little grid shape. So please appreciate that for a second. When we put the data into it, we can actually start to see that not all those leads are the same. Okay, so we're now starting to understand kind of what is different between these leads, what's valuable, what wasn't. So of that makeup, we had 9 existing customers, 17 opportunities, so ones that we're able to move forward with, and 4 were spam. Okay, it doesn't matter what you do, there will always be spam, it always gets through. Okay, so if you want to make the sales team happy, you tell them that you're going to exclude your existing customers because you don't need to pay for them to come back to your site. They can come through organically, they come through direct, they can have their email and come not even through the website, just straight into your inbox. spam, obviously, we always try to avoid where can. Okay, that's great. But actually, if we do that, we've now taken away 13 of those 30 leads. So all of a sudden, we're back down into that low end of the amount of data that Google needs for those bid strategies. So we've only got 17 conversion points now to work with. So that's a drop of 43% just by clearing out stuff that you don't want to be paying with. Okay. That gets worse when actually of those qualified, actually 10 of them only become a customer. So if customer is what we want to optimize towards, all of a sudden we've gone from a massive 30, we're okay, to 10. Okay, so we've now lost 66% of our conversion actions. Crap. Okay, so this is where we start to worry, this is where we start to go, how the hell do we get data back in? How do we make that 10 back into a 30? So the key is lost leads, which sounds bizarre, because why would you want to lose more leads to get more business? Okay, so lost leads are not a bad thing. They are high intent, so these are people who have been qualified. Okay, they have been qualified. Forgot that click was there. Okay, they just didn't become your customer because of another factor. So that could have been price, someone else might have been cheaper, it might have been availability. So maybe you couldn't get, if you're selling a physical product, maybe you couldn't get that to them quick enough. Or it could be capacity, so maybe the timelines didn't quite fit your side or the customer side. So despite those three factors, had those three factors been positive, they would have become your customer. So although it's a lost lead, it's actually a valuable lead in terms of they were an opportunity. So if we then pipe that lost lead data back into the bid strategy, we then go from having 27 actions in terms of customer and opportunity to 34. So all of a sudden we're above that 30 mark already. Okay, so that's an increase of 25% in conversion points. So to give it the full picture now, and I've grayed out a lot of it, but you can still see, having that lead opportunity back into the pipeline, we can now start to really push the data through. We now have a much more bigger data set to play with. So just to go back to this bit, I feel like I'm running through this, so I'm going to try and slow down a little. So we have the top line, which was our original set. We have the not qualified leads, okay? They're still bad. We still don't want them. They're not qualified, they're not a customer who we want. Lost leads, they're the good ones, okay? Not as good as a customer, obviously, because we're not getting money from them. But they're still relevant to the business, there's still a conversion action that we want to keep track of. But how does this look in a practical account? I hear you ask very loudly, I know. So, lost leads. So in conversion actions for this account, this is, you can see the date range, it's a fairly recent one. So we have HubSpot data coming through in forms of lead, opportunity, opportunity lost, and customer. I'll zoom in a little bit just so we can see that in a bit more detail. So for opportunity, we have 61. For opportunity lost, we have 226. Okay, so that is a massive amount of conversions that the bid strategy can now use to optimize towards. Now, just because it's optimizing towards them doesn't mean that it's going after them, okay? It's just using that data to understand what the market looks like, what the customers look like. Now, you see I've included conversion value within the screenshot, okay, and this is where the important bit is. So with the opportunities, so the people we want to have more of, the ones we've provided a quote for and are likely to become a customer, we want the dynamic value in there as much as possible, okay, or average order value. For opportunity lost, we want to have a low value for these because we don't want the bid strategy to actively optimize towards them, but we want it to acknowledge them. So that's where you can put in a value of a penny or more, depending on kind of what your scales are we're talking about. If you've got an average order value, I don't know if you're in warehousing, for example, you might have a couple of £1 million, could be one order. So £1 million versus a penny is going to massively overweight kind of how the bid strategy is optimizing. Whereas if you've got a smaller value like this client that we're looking at here, then actually a penny is probably scalable for all that. Does that make sense already? Yeah. All good. Not falling asleep now. No. Good. Just checking. So to reiterate that, conversion value opportunity needs to be dynamic. So if you can pull that directly in from your CRM, brilliant. You then start to look at ROAS and bidding on that side of things, or just put in a default value of like your average order. and then lost as penny, or whatever is kind of feasible on scale. So that all sounds great, but you might be sat there going, this is all good, Dave, but I only actually get 20 conversions in a month, never mind 30. That's even if I was to include kind of the opportunities lost. So what can we do to try and get that 30 in that 30-day period? We need to move back a little step. So we've got contact form submission is kind of where we want to be. Okay, let's move back slightly up and look at high intent and engaged users. So in terms of high intent, it might be somebody who spends longer than average on the site. So somebody who's really clicking around, getting quite deep into your site, looking at blog posts, looking at videos, looking at other content, maybe looking at some testimonials that existing customers have submitted to your site. They might download a white paper. I know B2B guys, you love your white papers. And there's always a download action for that. They might watch some video content, or it might be a case if you actually look at your current customer base and you go, actually, what makes them up? What attributes can I attribute to them, and how can I understand that? So we might be looking at, okay, are we looking at device versus mobile? So if you're B2B, a lot of business will come through, obviously your 9 to 5 normal business hours, it will probably be on desktop. So mobile traffic is probably not as relevant for you guys in terms of generating demand. It might be location. So this is an interesting one. So I had a client based in the US, and they were convinced, they're in warehousing, which is why I used that as an example a moment ago. And they were convinced that, okay, where the big warehousing locations are in the US, so California, in Texas, in Dallas, those sort of areas, that's where we need to be targeting our ad spend, because that's where the warehouses are, that's where the demand's going to come from. We did some similar analysis to what Kate's team did, and we found that actually a lot of the leads were coming from West Coast. So it was a lot from New York, sorry, East Coast, New York, and all down that side, because that's where the head offices were. Although the warehouses were on one side of the country, head offices were on the absolute opposite. So we needed to shift all the ad spend over to that side, because that's where the leads were coming from. And that wasn't just from us looking at the data, that was their business truly believed that, you know, where the warehouses are is where the business was coming from. So it was quite a big shift when we showed that data. So understanding kind of where your hotbeds are in terms of where your leads are coming is important. Time and day. So again, if you're B2B, so we're probably looking business hours for the majority of traffic, but you know, it's important to understand that. Weekends probably going to be quiet as well. And demographic as well. So who are the actual individuals who are making contact? Are they the people who are making decisions? Are they the PAs of the people who are making decisions? Are they the kind of procurement managers? And actually it's going to be someone much higher up the chain who's actually going to make the final decision. You probably need to be targeting them. So understanding who demographically you're targeting and who you're speaking to can then not only kind of influence the messaging that you're using your ad copy, but also some of the targeting methods as well. Primary and secondary actions. So primaries are obviously the ones that the bid strategies want to be optimizing towards. They're the ones that they're going to go out and get. So these are normally your contact forms or your phone calls, so your direct contacts. Secondaries are more behavioral contact points. So these are watching videos, reading blogs, time spent on site, or maybe downloading content as well. So these are more behavioral ones. What we can do is we can group some of these actions together in GA4 and create a custom event based on those. So actually you can say, right, if somebody watches this video, reads this blog, and downloads this white paper, I'll get the white paper in there, all those three actions together show me that that person on site at the moment is really high intent. Okay, so although they might not make contact with us today, it's likely they're going to come back. So actually I want to get more of those sort of people, so I can set that custom event as a primary conversion action and optimize towards that. Does that make sense? Yeah? Lots of nodding, I like it. Good. Cool. Example. So this is a different account where we actually implemented this approach. So they were getting, I think it was about, I'll put it on the slide actually, half a conversion a day when you average it out over a 30-day period. So what we did is we looked at what made users valuable. So we looked at the things that I've just been through, and we managed to increase that to 3 conversions a day, coming through just through those behavioural ones. Since implementing this back in September, the behavioural conversion actions now accounts for 63% of conversions in that account. So it's a massive uplift in terms of the amount of conversions that the bid strategy are now able to actually bid towards, rather than the lack of which we had when we were just looking for contact forms and phone calls. So, recap. Left to right. So we have lead quality data, so the integration from your CRM either via API or through offline conversion actions. High intent users, so actually understanding your customer base and who is currently inquiring with you. What do they look like? Where are they? When are they logging on? What are they doing once they log on? And optimizing towards that. 2 bonus extras. If you're really struggling for conversions per campaign, think about consolidating the amount of campaigns you have in your account. Okay, so we're looking at grouping similar intents or similar industries if you're broken out by different verticals, and trying to kind of increase that data density within those campaigns. It may be that you've got 5 or 6 different landing pages going through those campaigns for different areas or different product types. That's fine, because they're going to be similar customers, whether they're in department A or department B. If most businesses have got a roundabout kind of customer that they're looking for. And review budgets. So this is one that always gets a lot of clients we speak to, is they don't look at what the conversion rates are. So if you know that you need 1 sale and your sale to inquiry rate is about 10 to 1, so actually you know that, okay, we need 10 people to inquire for us to get 1 sale. If you know that your conversion rate on site is also about 10%, you then need 100 people on site to get those 10 people to inquire to get that 1 sale. If you know that your average cost per click is £1 and you need 100 people on site, you need at least £100 to get those 100 people. Okay. If your click-through rate is whatever percent, you can then work out how many impressions. You can then work out how much your budget needs to be, not only daily but monthly, to get those 30 and 30. Okay. So by looking at your conversion rate, you can actually go, oh crap, look at this campaign's got 1% conversion rate. I'm going to need 1,000 people. That's going to cost me £1,000, and I've only got £500 for this month. Okay, so that campaign's not going to work in its current structure. So again, the other one, look to consolidate, look to increase the click-through rates, look to increase your conversion rates. All of a sudden that budget can go a little bit further, we can start to get more people through to site. Make sense? More nodding, good. That's actually my last slide. That's a little bit upsetting. I was enjoying that. Cool. So yes, that was me. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, QR code's there, or grab me in a bit. Yeah, and it was run away.
I didn't run away, Dave. I was just literally doing a lot of other things in the venue at that time, and I was excited to see that you were enjoying that talk. And I hope our listeners too have enjoyed that talk. But stay tuned. Get buckled in still, because we've got our final talk from Nils Rooijmans coming up. Nils has been someone who's been, very dedicated to creating scripts and automation for the industry. Many people have used them in their accounts to ensure they're doing their roles a lot better, and they're being very fast on the uptake of any issues that Google might throw at them, or them in the platform. So yeah, without further ado, this is going to be a bit of a longer talk than the rest, but it's going to be very worthwhile the wait, I assure you. And don't worry about trying to capture all the screenshots that you might have. There's this whole recording is going to be sitting on our YouTube page even after this goes live. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But before we get into the news talk, I just want to give a big shout out to Jill Saskin-Gales, who a PPC Live ambassador, who is allowing us to use her StreamYard account to stream this, not just to the PPC Live audience, but to also her audience on YouTube. So anyone watching from Jill's YouTube page, hello, thank you for being here with us. So yeah, without further ado, let's go and watch our final talk. That's Neil's talk, which is going to be about scripts for Ecom accounts.
Of you has ever installed a Google Ads script in the Google Ads account? Yeah, thank you. Who has ever created one themselves? Okay. Good news is, all of you who did not show their hands, you can create a Google Ads script yourself. with the help of course, an LLM like ChatGPT. We're not going to talk about how to do that specifically today. You will get a QR code with links to my custom GPT that will help you create a lot of the scripts that we'll be talking about today. I'm just going to show you how I use scripts in e-commerce accounts for my clients. So no code involved today, so no worries, no JavaScript. So a few years ago, I had a challenge. A friend of a friend approached me. He runs a offline retail business, high-end digital cameras. Small town, Haarlem, close to Amsterdam. It was an offline retail store, but he was also running a web shop on the side. The web shop was doing okay-ish, spending roughly 10K a month, nearly profitable, but he was like, I don't know what to do. The results are very inconsistent, and basically it's me just, you know, shipping, handling returns, stuff like that, but I'm not really making any money. So he had an inventory of roughly 50 products, again, high-end products, high tickets. You can think of like cameras that start at a couple of $1,000, lenses, 1,500, batteries, but also smaller item things like the stands that, you know, sell for a few $100. So different products, not that many. The freelancer that was running the Google Ads account basically threw all these different products in a single Performance Max campaign that was running value-based bidding with target ROAS. Right, that's what Google is selling us, right? And in all fairness, it was doing a sort of okay-ish job. I mean, it was nearly profitable, but he couldn't scale it. And more importantly, results were very inconsistent. So 1 month he was making a lot of money, next month a few $1,000 down the drain. So how do I approach these types of clients? Roughly, my strategy always looks somewhat like this. First, I'm going to fix conversion tracking. Next, I'm going to fix the feed, the product feed. That is very important for shopping. Then I almost always migrate away from Performance Max campaign back to standard campaign. Standard shopping campaign with a DSA campaign. And then next to that, standard text search ads based on the data that the other campaign types have generated. So we'll get into the details, but standard search ads for the highly converting search terms. After that, dynamic remarketing. And when we want to go up funnel, we do some YouTube and demand gen. And only if we've maxed out the opportunities with all these standard campaign types, I allow Performance Max to go after some additional revenue from the best-selling products. So today I'm going to go over step 1 to 4 of these of this strategy and how I use scripted. And the most important thing is that many of the clients that we currently sign, they have a problem with Performance Max, not because it's not performing, but because it's not predictably performing and it's not scaling very well. And that's why we like to sign up clients like that, because the standard campaign types will allow you to give predictable, scalable results. So the first is profit-based conversion tracking. So again, this was a relatively small shop, 50 items. So I always like to implement profit tracking, especially if you have products with different margins. So the margin on a camera might be 20% on a $8,000 camera, whereas the margin on a battery might be only 5% on a battery that will cost, I don't know, $250. So completely different product with different relative margins and different absolute margins. Doesn't make sense if you only track revenue, because a target ROAS for these products, it's not the same. You can't use the same target for all these different products, right? And people do not always buy what they click. So even if you segment the products by margin, target ROAS bidding will not work. So you need to communicate the real profit value of the orders to Google. How do you do that? You can use third-party tools like Profit Metrics for that. I would highly recommend so for the bigger clients, but for smaller clients, you can easily set this up yourself using Google Tag Manager. So what I do, inside Google Tag Manager, I create a custom table, a lookup table that holds the item IDs of all the products in store and the cost of goods sold. If I have that information, I can use the data layer on the thank you page combined with a JavaScript function to actually calculate the real profit from the order. Basically, I look at the total revenue, minus the tax, minus the shipping cost, minus the cost of goods sold of all the items in the basket, right? Then you have the profit value. And then you communicate that back to Google as a new secondary conversion action. Initially, I always say secondary conversion action because you want to slowly migrate away from the campaign and the smart bidding that is already running in the account. So not switch it to primary immediately, but first get a lot of conversions, at least 60, in this new secondary action. and then start experimenting on a campaign or bid strategy level with this new conversion goal. Another trick I like to do is, for many of my e-commerce clients, they just they don't communicate the loss in returns, right? So you have this big order, but parts of these orders, they get returned. And if you forget to communicate the returns back to Google, Google will think, oh, I generated a lot of money for this business. Not so, especially in fashion. I know many of the girls like to try on different items. We all do, right? So we order not one item, no, we order like 4 different variations of, for instance, one dress, different colors, different sizes. But if we know that at the time of checkout that 3 out of the 4 items will have a high probability of being returned, we can actually use that information at the time of the checkout to adjust the conversion value that we send to Google. So instead of 4 times the profit, it's only 1/4 of that value. Now the trick I like to use is to use the item group ID. If you have like the same product with the same item group ID, then there's a huge probability that many of these items will get returned because these are different variations of the same. So I always like to include the item group ID of these products in my product feed and include it in the data layer of the thank you page so that I can use this in communicating the real conversion value. Product feeds. Of course, I highly recommend to use a feed management tool. It makes life much easier, and product feeds are really, really important for e-commerce. If you don't send the proper data to Google, the shopping ads will be shown for irrelevant queries and for much less relevant queries. So always try to include as much information as you can in a product feed and use scripts to do so. So I have scripts that detect missing values in the product feed, and if it sees a value that is missing, and with the help of an LLM, it can add that value, the script will basically insert that value in the supplemental feed that I use in the Google Merchant Center so that I still get all the data that is missing from the product feed in the Merchant Center. Now, one thing I like to stress out here is the use of the product type. The product type attribute, officially in the Google documentation, it doesn't tell that much about the value of this attribute, but the product type basically tells Google, okay, if we have, I don't know, if we only have 50 products and there is a certain product type that, I don't know, a high-end camera, blah, 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 we only have 3 items of them and 2 out of them are out of stock. And these 2 were generating 80% of the sale. There is a third one with the same product type. Then it basically transfers the learning, the smart bidding learning, to that other third item that has the same product type. If we weren't using that product type, then these learnings would not have been transferred to that new item, so it would take Google much longer to anticipate the value of clicks that it would send to that product. Now, PMax for shopping ads, yeah, I'm not sure if is there anyone following me on LinkedIn or my newsletter here? Thank you for that. But if you know me, I'm not a huge fan of Performance Max. I like to complain a lot about Performance Max. In all fairness, it has some good things to it, but in general, it's relatively easy to outperform Performance Max. And the main reason is that Performance Max likes to hide clicks with low conversion value in the aggregate that it uses in reporting, but also for the bidding algorithm. So if you look at Performance Max, if it's performing well for you, most probably that is because 80% of the revenue is being generated by clicks from the shopping ads. I'm talking about an e-commerce account here, right? So 80% of the clicks will probably come through shopping ads, generating high value. But if there is budget left, what will PMax do? Well, let's explore some new growth opportunity. And it doesn't really matter if these clicks will convert because overall performance from shopping was already good. So it will start spending money on the display network or the YouTube network or even worse, the discovery network. And these clicks, well, it's great that Google is exploring new growth opportunities, but these clicks tend to have much lower conversion value. And if your job is to increase short-term returns, then it makes a lot of sense to simply cut that wasted spend, right? That is also one of the main reasons that I like to steer away from Performance Max. And I'm not the only one. This is a graph from our friend Smarter E-commerce, an Austrian company that basically monitors the uptake of Performance Max campaigns over the years. And what you see in the upper right corner is that the increase of accounts that are running Performance Max campaigns is slowing down, it's actually decreasing. And I think that is partly because the advertisers started realizing that it's, you can get better results with different campaign types. So I like to use standard shopping campaigns. Who is familiar with the priorities of standard shopping campaigns? Not that many. So to all of you who are running e-commerce and have not lifted your hands, I highly, highly recommend to go the next few days, go watch a YouTube video by Martin Roodkerding where he explains how you can use campaign priorities in standard shopping campaigns to get more control over the types of search terms that your products will be shown and the bids that Google will place. It's not a really difficult to understand topic, but sometimes it's a bit hard to grasp on how you can actually implement it, and he does an amazing job at explaining this in this video. So today I'm not going to go into the details, but I'm going to explain it in light of the setup that I like to use for clients that need an increase in short-term profitability. It's what I like to call the gatekeeper architecture. So if you insert all your products in a single shopping campaign or a single Performance Max campaign, Google will try to match them to relevant user queries, but you do not have control over what queries they are shown for. Of course, you can always add negatives after the fact, but Google first tries to match a product to a completely random query, and if you allow it to place a high bid for that specific user query, it might do so. But the user query might be completely irrelevant, and there is no way for you to prevent Google from placing that high bid the first time, unless you use a structure like this. So we're just going to pretend that we have only a single product for now. There's only one single product. The blue boxes are standard shopping campaigns. There's one with a high priority, I call it the gatekeeper, and there is one with a medium or a low priority, I call it the moneymaker. Both campaigns hold the same product. If the rest of the targeting settings would be completely the same, and I would be enabling both campaigns at the same time, the high priority campaign would always show, right? So if there's a relevant user query for this product, Google will simply let the high priority campaign place the bid. But if I've excluded this specific user query from the high priority campaign via a negative keyword, then that campaign is not allowed to show the ad. So Google thinks, okay, I cannot use the high priority campaign to show this product, but the medium priority campaign still allows me to show it because this user query is not negated in the medium priority campaign. And the medium priority campaign has a high bid, whereas the high priority campaign has a low bid. So what will happen now is that for all the user queries that I've added as a negative to the high priority campaign, they will be funneled to the medium priority campaign, where I allow Google to place a high bid. But all the user queries that have not been negated in the high priority campaign will be matched to the high priority campaign, and there I only allow Google to place a very low bid. So that's a relatively easy way to prevent Google from spending a lot of money on user queries that have unpredicted conversion value. What I want to do for these user queries that I already know have a high conversion value, I want to funnel them to the medium, and I do so thanks to the negative keyword lists. So I attach a negative keyword list to the high priority campaign that holds all the converting search terms. So if there is a search term that has had, let's say, over 2 conversions, I add it to the negative keyword list, the converting search terms. So in the future, these clicks from the converting search terms will be funneled to through the medium priority campaign, where they actually get the higher bid. Now this setup requires some technical details that Martin explains in his video. One very important thing is that you want to use a shared budget so that it will never be the case that your high priority campaign runs out of budget, because when that happens, Google will funnel all the queries, also the irrelevant ones, to your medium priority campaign, and you will waste a lot of money. But again, you can watch Martin's video. But if there's only one thing I'd like you to take away from this session, is that you can use these high priority and medium priority campaign structure to get control over the types of search terms that you allow Google to place high bids, right? So at the start of a new, for instance, a completely new account, you can, what I like to call a qualifier list of keywords. So if you only take, for instance, the product brand and the type, or the the product brand and the type number, or something that is bottom funnel. So all these lower funnel search queries that you will anticipate that have a high conversion value, you can add them to a negative keyword list. I call them the qualifier, the pre-qualifiers. And if you add that negative keyword list to your high priority campaign, then only the user queries that contain that list will be funneled to your medium priority campaign, where Google can start spending money. And you won't be paying for all these other irrelevant user queries that Google likes to match your products to. In the green parts, this is what I use my scripts for. So, of course, these shopping campaigns start generating clicks, generating search term data, conversion data. If there is a search term that has had 2 conversions or more, add it to the negative keyword list converting search terms. If there is one that has had over, let's say, 100 or 200 clicks and didn't convert at all, let's negate it from the account completely. We don't want to be spending money there. Regarding the budget, of course, if the results are good and we see that we're at 80% or 90% of the budget, let's increase it so that we can scale the account. And also regarding the taking too long for the slide. And I also like to use a script to increase the CPC bit in my high priority campaign if the aggregate result is already good, because that way I can explore more growth opportunities, right? So by increasing this low CPC bit inside the high priority campaign, I get more clicks because Google will start matching it to a completely different set of user queries that have more competition. Another trick I like to use is something that our French friend Mathieu spoke about on one of the famous PPC town halls with Fred Valleys. And the idea would be that if you have a proper product feed, you can automatically create single product ad groups and use them in your DSA campaigns. So normally you would have a DSA campaign. If you have a feed-based DSA campaign, there's one ad group. You have like 2 or 3 descriptions running inside that DSA campaign, but these descriptions aren't tailored to specific products. It's just one generic description for this whole feed of products in your DSA campaign. But thanks to scripts, you can relatively easy create single product ad groups and tailor these descriptions to the attributes that are available in the feed. So you basically use the attributes in your product feed to create individual ads for each product, and then simply let the Google's DSA algorithm do its job, right? So it's going to discover a lot of interesting search terms that have conversion value that you can later on use in also your gatekeeper architecture. Now you have the standard shopping campaign running, generating a lot of search terms and click data. You have your DSA campaign generating a lot of search terms and search term data. But as we all know, Google loves to spend money, and we need to prevent it from doing so. And we can do so through negative keywords, but mining these search terms, it's a hell of a job. It takes a lot of time. So I like to use scripts for that. So what this script basically does, it monitors the search terms, and if it thinks it is a candidate for a negative, it puts it in a Google sheet, and me or any of the members of my team can simply go in the sheet, and inside the sheet they can indicate whether or not we should negate it. Basically say, okay, you should negate this keyword at the level of the campaign as an exact match keyword, or negate it at this negative keyword list and use a broad match keyword. So we don't even need to go inside the Google Ads interface anymore to do this analysis and add these negative keywords. The scripts will basically do it with the help of this Google Sheet. Now I'm currently working on a version of this script where I use AI to basically learn from the feedback. So next to providing information about whether or not the search term should be negated, at what level, and the match type, me or my team, we can also say why we should negate it. So for instance, if we're selling, I don't know, sneakers, people are searching for red sneakers, but there aren't any red sneakers in the store, we can simply say, okay, there isn't any red. We don't have red items, no red colored items. And if we provide that feedback to the LLM, then the LLM is going to anticipate that. So if it sees search terms with the word red in it, or other expressions of similar colors, it will start suggesting it as, okay, most probably you will also not have, I don't know, pink sneakers, and it will suggest it and put it in the sheet. It's not working 100% correctly yet, but it illustrates the power of scripts combined with AI to reduce a lot of the work involved. Another thing I like to use scripts for is to create standard search ads, so standard text ads, based on the data. Again, we look at the converting search terms, and if we see search terms with enough volume and conversions, then we add them to a specialized standard text ads campaign where we use a exact match version of that keyword with a final URL, a keyword level final URL that points to the internal site search of the web shop. So this only works if you have a good internal search. So if the site search is not functioning properly, not generating relevant results, this strategy won't work. But it's relatively easy to automate this and scale it because you have like a single campaign where you have all these converting search terms as exact match keywords with a landing page that is highly relevant for that specific product, and you don't need to do any work in ad copy or whatever. And I was really surprised by the results because you have relevant ad copy, you have a highly relevant lander. By the way, I use dynamic keyword insertion in the RSA to make the ad copy relevant, and you get great quality scores. And it works like a charm because the script just automatically adds 10, 20 keywords every day, and it keeps growing, and the smart bidding algorithm can do its job. So this is, it's a highly valuable tactic to scale the accounts. You can also use the search term data to improve your product feeds. So if you have converting search terms and the product feed doesn't have any product that has that converting search term in the title or the description of the feed, well, it's an easy win, right? So again, I use supplemental feeds for that. So the script inserts that data in a Google Sheet that I have used as a supplemental feed inside the Merchant Center. So that way we can increase the number of impressions for these converting search terms simply by adding them to the data inside the Merchant Center. Speaking about the Merchant Center, many shops have products that go in and out of store during daytimes, and if that fluctuates highly, you want the Merchant Center to be up to date about this fact, right? But the default setting in Merchant Center is we only update data once per day. And if you want to change that in the interface, I know there's ways around it these days, but the default is, you can only do it on a daily basis, but you would like to do it on an hourly basis. Well, thanks to scripts, you can do so. So I've created a script that basically updates the Merchant Center data on an hourly basis instead of the daily basis, therefore reducing the risk that you will send clicks to out-of-stock products or not be promoting products that are currently on sale. Speaking about out-of-stock products, let's pretend you have this small web shop, 50 products, and 2 or 3 products generate half of the revenue. And all 3 of them go out of stock. What do you think will happen? Exactly, because you're not selling them anymore. But what's even worse is that Google thinks, oh wow, before I was doing a great job. I was spending all the budget. I was meeting my targets. Okay, these three products are out, but I'm not expecting a huge jump in performance. I will keep spending the budget. We all know that if these 3 best-selling products are out of stock, most probably, revenue is gonna be hit hard. So we want to make a change in the spend in Google Ads. But if we don't communicate that fact to Google, it will keep spending your budget, because before the products went out of stock, the performance was good enough. So when this happens, what you want to do is make a seasonal adjustment, telling it, Google, okay, for the next few days until these best-selling items are back in stock, I expect conversion rates to be much lower. Therefore, you can bid much lower. If you don't do that, it will keep bidding high, and it has to learn the fact that conversion rates will drop in the next few days. So I have a script that basically monitors my bestsellers, and if any of the bestsellers go out of stock, I get an email alert so that we can anticipate and, if necessary, make a seasonal adjustment. Basically, the same goes for disapproved products. Unfortunately, Google's policy and the guidelines, it's a gray area. Google uses AI to make sure that we adhere to that policy, but the AI makes mistakes. So many products get disapproved for no valid reason, right? But when that happens to one of your best-selling items, again, like with them going out of stock, probably you're going to have a big issue if that disapproved product was responsible for 20% of the revenue, right? So you want to be in the know immediately. So I created a script to alert us when that happens, so we can make the changes that are required. Another script, it's a no-brainer. If a product has generated over, let's say, 200 clicks and 0 conversions, let's just stop advertising that product. So what we do is we exclude it. Again, we use a supplemental feed with a custom label for that. So basically say, okay, custom label 0, set it to non-performers, and non-performers are excluded from the shopping campaigns. Now, with the risk of sounding like a douchebag, I'm going to brag a little. This is the view from my office. I just got back from the Caribbean. I'm still getting used to the weather over here. It's terrible, yes, I know. I like to spend my winters there. So I was at my desk, wearing my flip-flops and my Speedo. No worries, no pictures there, but one of my scripts sent out an alert for a product. Can you guess what that product is? Who can tell? Yes, it's a mouse mat heater. Yes, so this is December in Amsterdam. It was really cold. People were, there was a huge increase in demand for this product because, people had cold hands. But I was there with 30 degrees Celsius, in my flip-flops, so I would never have thought of this. But luckily, I have my script running that monitors the trending products. So just like you can monitor trends in search behavior, you can also monitor trends basically in what products actually get a high increase in number of transactions. And then you can split them out in a separate campaign to push Google to really go after that demand. Probably start with a lower ROAS target to make sure that it starts spending quickly. But then you can outcompete your competitors by being the first to notice this trend. Right? So all these scripts, they help me to scale these types of e-commerce account in a predictable way. I'm not saying that Performance Max is always bad, but if you want predictable growth, especially if short-term profits are more important than simply growth in revenue, then a setup like this will help you scale the accounts and make the clients really happy. Now, regarding the profit, there's always the challenge as to, even if you're measuring profit next to revenue and you're using a value-based bidding strategy with a target profit over ad spend, the question always becomes, what is the ideal target, right? So let's say you are going after a target profit over ad spend of 100%. That basically means that your ad spend is equal to the profit you make, so you're break even, right? If you increase your target, what will happen is that Google is not allowed to bid as high. You will get less clicks, you will get less conversions, less revenue, but profit will go up because you're spending less on the clicks. But that doesn't go unended. So you, in practice, you will always see a curve like this. So the green line is the profit curve and the blue line is the revenue. If you increase your ROAS or POAS target, you make less revenue, and to a certain extent, profit goes up because you're spending less. But if you increase it too much, you will get so little clicks, so little conversions, that profit will actually go down. So how do you decide what is the optimum value for your target? It's not obvious at all. It differs per client, per campaign. So I always like to run experiments to do so. So what I do first is I create a custom column in the Google Ads interface that represents the net result, or the gross profit after ad spend. Basically meaning revenue minus the shipping cost, minus the tax, minus the product cost, minus the ad spend. That is the net result. And then I set up a geo-split campaign experiment for my standard shopping campaigns that run this target ROAS bidding strategy. And I use different targets for geo-region A and geo-region B. So that is basically me trying to figure out what is the optimal target value for this specific campaign for this client. And as you can see in this experiment, the one with the, 150% target outperformed the one with 130%. So I know, okay, the ideal is probably closer to 150 than 130. Let's run another experiment and maybe test 140 versus 160. So that way I'm always trying to figure out what is the optimum value for the client that wants to increase short-term profits. Again, very important, this client did not want to increase revenue, wanted to increase short-term profits. So before, he was spending 10K a month, hardly break even, very unpredictable result, very hard to grow. After 8 weeks, we spent less. We spent less on Google Ads, not good for our business because we have a pricing model that is a percentage of spend. But the client was really happy because we were actually making a profit and we were able to scale it afterwards. So to answer Kat's question, what makes me happy in the PPC life, it is outperforming my own expectations, but mostly it's making clients like this happy because, you know, these are all entrepreneurs, relatively small entrepreneurs with you know, family back home, and then if we can make life easy for them, I think that is a big win, and that helps me a lot. So the good news is you can do the same. You can use these scripts that I've described because they're available for free on my website, but when you start playing with them, you'll probably get ideas for your own account setup that you think, oh, I can use, probably scripts could automate this, or I could test this with scripts. So I've created a custom GPT that will help you create Google Ads scripts. You don't need to know anything about JavaScript, literally zero knowledge required. You can simply type your request in English language and it will create the scripts for you. You can find them here. And if you start working on it, you can find me at that email address with any questions on scripts. And I'm happy to take questions now.
Actually, no, please give Nils a round of applause. We are running the Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining us for that. I'm going to be bringing our two fantastic speakers, Dave Alexander and Nils Rooijmans, to join us. But just before they do, I just want to remind you guys that we've got to have 3 more events in person this year. We're going to be in Brighton on the 29th of April. We're going to be in London again for 2 more events in July and in October. So please join us for that. And please also consider supporting us. You know, this event is free for those who can't make it in person. But if you go to buymeacoffee.com/PPC Live UK, you can support in a very little way, like even it's like £5. I think there's a recurring thing that you can do with us to just help support us to ensure that we continue to bring these events to you for as little a price as possible. So yeah, keep track of those dates and support us in any way that you can. So yes, let's bring 2 of our speakers on stage. Let me make sure I do this right, remove the right screen and add Dave and Nils. Hi guys.
Hey, how are we doing?
Very well, very well. So yeah, when you I feel like with different talks, we are very much in the whole in 2026 and 2025, especially for me, writing for search engine land, there's always new things happening, new changes happening. Do you feel that there's anything that has happened in the past, maybe even like a couple of weeks, that has gone, oh Lord, the advice I gave there, maybe we need to change tactics a little bit? Dave?
Nothing new from my talk. I've definitely had a lot of people contact me on LinkedIn with lots of questions, particularly around the behavioural metrics that I spoke through. So I think that really struck a chord, and a lot of people obviously always aim for that end goal of contact forms and phone calls and purchases, but actually just getting those high intent users to site kind of really seems to have struck a chord. So yeah, it's definitely one for people to look into if they're not already.
Fantastic. How about you, Nils? Has anything shocking happened in 2026 yet?
I'm not sure. I'm a bit worried about the DSA campaigns that I use in my setups. As in with Google pushing AI Max, I'm not 100% sure that DSA will be around for much longer. And I love DSA, as you can tell from my presentation. But yeah, so I would recommend to start experimenting with AI Max, even though it has the same flaws as Performance Max used to have like a couple of years ago. But I would definitely recommend, start experimenting with AI Max.
Okay, that's
with
interesting.
A small percentage of the budget.
Right, small percentage. I think with like the AI Max issue, people are seeing that whole, it's how PMax was at the beginning. So maybe we wait till other people kind of, till other people are kind of like, test their toes. But do you have like any recommendations in terms of whether Ecom, it's more an Ecom thing or lead gen, or is it very much like any kind of brand should test it out? What do you think, Nils? That's for you.
I think for Ecom, that's the thing. For Ecom, I'm gonna answer the question, but for lead gen, Dave is the guy to talk to. Me personally, I think both Performance Max and AI Max, they have a really hard time performing on non-e-commerce sites, or when I mean you don't have the real transaction value at the time of purchase or at the time of conversion, because both of them, they tend to go after click fraud and lead fraud. So you have to prevent that from happening.
Okay, interesting. And Dave, do you think AI Max is a good tester for those like running like B2B?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. From what I've experienced so far, and when I've spoken to Google about it, it does tend to start very, very wide to start with. So it'll go after any search term it can vaguely match to your topic or to the content on your website. Once it starts to get a little bit of success with conversions, it then narrows down to those, which is almost like opposite to what we expect with keyword match types, whereas normally it would start narrow and then start to expand out. This is the other way. It goes wide and comes narrow. So it depends on kind of what you're advertising. If you're in storage, for example, storage has lots of different iterations of the word. So it could be, container storage, or it could be storage for your bedroom, or it could be computer storage. So there's lots of different variations. So you need to be really hot on the negatives and making sure you're tailoring it as much as you can, because to start with. So yeah, start with it can go quite wild. So yeah, just make sure we keep it in check.
Absolutely. Not gotten any questions from the audience, and maybe that just means that you guys, your talks were just so amazing. You guys explained everything amazingly, and people don't have questions. That's fine. But I have a few that I'd love to pose to each of you. So Dave, especially like starting with you, in terms of like the whole looking at organizational alignment, what would you say the biggest challenge you faced are in terms of getting sales to also properly categorize the leads in terms of like qualified loss, considering there has to be a lot of like CRM accuracy when doing like the kind of tests that you were proposing?
Yeah, so this is something that we see quite often, to be honest. So the disconnect between the marketing team and the sales team for a client. Sales team always want to be kind of on the phones or on the emails, making contacts, and they haven't necessarily got time for the admin side. But actually, by enriching that data, we then are able to obviously optimize towards more leads. By more leads, that keeps sales teams more busy, sales directors a lot happier. So the way we tend to approach it is we pull as much data as we can from them, we analyze it, we present it back to them and say, right, okay, this is the data that you're currently giving, this is performance you're getting as a result. If we make this tweak, and this tweak, and we change your process slightly to add an extra step in to, mark those closed loss leads to opportunity lost, or whatever kind of language that they want to use internally, so that we're able to feed that data back into the bid strategies, we can then start to see this uplift in performance. And I think when you show them the numbers and you show them the steps that need to be put in place to make those numbers happen, to make those numbers increase, it does really help to kind of get the buy-in. As with anything like this, if you're trying to get a client into a new approach or a new way of thinking, if you can have those meetings in person, that helps break down the friction that might be there. Over email, how you word things can sometimes be misinterpreted or context lost. So always try and get in the room if that's viable, and get those people around the table to chat it through. And it might be that we have to come to some sort of in the middle agreement where we don't get the full data, but we get parts of it, and then we can start to proxy some of it or whatever it may be. But yeah, definitely get in the room if you can, and let the data do the talking and show them the impact it can have.
Absolutely. And Nils, I also want to come to you in terms of talking about, you said that you've got beef with PMax, and I think you even probably already touched on it recently, just now. But like, with PMax and then, even like AI Max, there have been like a lot of, PMax specifically, there've been loads of more updates in terms of visibility, like channel reporting and, asset reports and SQRs. Does that make you having a more love for PMax, or is there just a fundamental issue you feel that there is with PMax?
Oh, great question. As in, First of all, I highly respect the fact that Google has listened to us, PPC practitioners, PPC professionals, as in we've been shouting at Google, as in we need more transparency, we need more controls, because Performance Max is not always doing a great job. And when I say not always, I literally mean not always. I mean, for some accounts, for some advertisers, Performance Max can do a great job. If you don't have much time to spend managing the account, if you don't have the skills, if you're on a limited budget of a few hundred, a few thousand a month, Performance Max can do a really great job. But if you are a seasoned PPC professional and your client likes to increase profits, then that objective is not always aligned with Google's objective. So that is basically my first objection with Performance Max, because as we all know, Google is a for-profit company, right? And we're in this capitalist society where Google has many stakeholders, as in we have the end users, we have the advertisers, we have us PPC practitioners, agencies, whatever, and then we have the shareholders. And the shareholders, they have a big say. And what do shareholders want? They want profit, right? So increasing profits for Google does not always mean increasing profits for our clients, the advertiser. So that is my main concern with all these AI automations that Google is introducing in the Google Ads platform. Performance Max was, in my opinion, one of the biggest examples of what went wrong there, because at the start of Performance Max, Google was presenting this campaign type as the one and all answer to everything, right? This is the campaign time that will fix everything for each and every one of these stakeholders. Not true, because we've noticed that the developers that created this campaign type, they were overestimating the performance of Performance Max. It wasn't doing a great job. Definitely not. There were many campaigns that were basically losing money. Many advertisers started complaining. Many PPC professionals started complaining. And luckily, Google actually listened to that. So they increased transparency, they increased controls. We are allowed to add negative keywords. We can see where Performance Max campaign is spending the money. Great script developers like Mike Rhodes developed scripts to actually create that transparency before Google did. So again, a big shout out to Mike Rhodes, but also to Google Ads Scripts, because Google Ads Scripts allow you to create these types of transparency and monitor the results and take action before the average advertiser would notice. So getting back to your main question, as in, is this a good thing? Yes, I think it's a good thing that Google is actually creating all these additional controls and transparency, and at the same time helping us understand where AI is actually creating additional value that we can use to optimize performance for our clients in a good way. So my expectation is that the same trajectory will happen with AI Max. We are still in the early phase of AI Max. We are the beta testers for Google. So that's why I always say, do start experimenting with it, but only with a small percentage of your budget, because it's much wiser to let the other advertisers spend their money to make AI Max great again.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone has actually posed a question talking about this, like, PMax chat, and he goes, do you think the effort to scale standard shopping is much more worth it than the effort to scale down PMax excesses?
Yeah, great question. It all depends on the budget. So if you're on a limited budget and if you're on a small budget, if it's relatively easy for you, if you already understand a lot about PPC, if you can automate it, then yes, definitely go with the standard approach, because it will be much easier to reduce the wasted ad spend. If PPC is completely new to you, you're not familiar with standard campaign types, you have a rough time with scripts, you're not comfortable in spending hours in the interface, don't do it. Just set up conversion tracking. If conversion tracking is doing a good job and you have a proper product feed is really important here. Good product feed, good conversion tracking, run PMax on a couple of thousand a month, you're good. But if you want to increase short-term profits and you already know what you're talking about, standard campaigns will, I will almost guarantee you they will outperform Performance Max easily.
Yeah. So I know we only have like a couple of minutes left, but before we leave, I'd just like us to get a short opinion about ChatGPT ads. I know it's very brand new. US is testing it out, and it's going to be like one of the big topics of 2026. What people's opinions are on it. So can I just get your quick thoughts, Dave? Can I come to you first in terms of like what your thoughts are of ChatGPT ads?
Yeah, excited, definitely. I think it'd be interesting to see where the ads slot in within the platform. So obviously everyone is very conversational with ChatGPT. So where it chooses to interject ads and where it doesn't, I think will be interesting. What I've heard so far is costs have been quite expensive. It'll be interesting to see in terms of scale of spend whether that's going to be altered as it progresses, or whether it's going to stay as is. Yeah, definitely a space to watch, I think.
Yeah. How about you, Nils? Excited for ChatGPT ads? Oh no.
I don't have the budget. It's too expensive.
Like, right?
I don't have the money.
Yeah. It's about the budgets, man.
No, but,
it really
but
is.
I'm definitely. It's all about the money. No, but in all seriousness, it's funny, right? Because I've been in the industry way too long. I remember the days when Larry Page and Sergey Brin, they literally announced Google will never show ads. Never. It's like 80% of the revenue is through ads now.
Yeah.
The same will probably happen to all these AI companies, because advertising is the way to monetize business to consumer services on the internet. But Google, well, I think Meta, Facebook Meta also, but Google is the only company on earth that really knows how to do this currently. As in, they make the most money out of the online ads. So I think Google has a big advantage there. So OpenAI has to catch up. They will. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
But we will probably see that, all these different AI companies have a learning curve. I expect Google to be the quickest one to move to that spot. And we as PPC practitioners that know the Google Ads platform will hopefully be able to jump on that wagon first and reap the benefits from that. But me personally, I don't have any experiences yet to share.
Yeah, no, okay, no worries. Well, thank you guys so much for joining our live Q&A. And yeah, that kind of brings us to the wrap of the PPC Live 19 online events. Again, if you want to join us in person, join us on April 29th. We're going to be in Brighton. Go to ppc.live to get all those details. Tickets will be going on sale at the end of this week. But for now, thank you so much for joining online, and for everyone that joined from all the platforms, LinkedIn or YouTube. Very grateful. And for if you're watching on this on replay, thank you again, and hope to see you at future events. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Nils. Bye, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
And there's this stream.